notes you need to, go quickly, because we got stuff to learn today. Yes, Damarian, what you got? Say it louder. Excuse me. I have people asking whole class discussion questions that we need to pay attention to. How is A what? Does anyone know why A is non-statistical? What key detail? Kennedy, what you got?
It's a survey question.
How do we know it's a survey question?
How many pairs of Jordans do you have?
How many pairs of Jordans do you have? If I ask multiple people, will I get multiple responses? Yes. But when it has that word you, right? The you is only asking you. So, Damarian, how many Jordans do you have? You don't know how many? Do you have any? Just give me a number. A guess.
Probably about 9 to 10.
Okay, so you got, let's just say you had 9 Jordans, right? That's only one response. The statistical question here would be, he's never getting to go again. The statistical question would be, how many Jordans do people have on average? Does that make sense? Tristan, you asked for water. That was all you asked for. Dude, I stepped out here and you weren't getting water. Come on. This is your last chance, sorry. Or that was your last chance. Alright, does that make sense, Damarian, so that you can improve and get that right next time? But if you ask that question you, that's a survey question. Okay? Any other questions? Alright. Hopefully we felt pretty comfy with statistical versus non-statistical. Take whatever notes you need. Do also, oh no, if you want to ask a question, you ask a question of the whole class, but hold on one second. One thing I do want to point out though is, don't forget it's not just about getting statistical versus non-statistical, it's also your level of evidence of understanding, so explaining it as well, so make sure you think about that. Let me answer Ireland and then I'll answer your question. Caitlin, what you got, Ireland?
Significant analysis is hard, but your definition, like your explanation wasn't right.
Okay. So correct your explanation for now, and then when I give it back to you tomorrow, look at the rubric to figure out where you think your level of evidence of understanding is. Okay, so that's your homework assignment over the weekend. Let me answer Caitlin, and then I'll answer your question. Yes, Caitlin.
I already answered it, but I didn't know we had to explain the top ones. I know everything like when you are everything else, but
If it's a question on an assessment, you have to explain. Because remember, it's about your evidence of understanding. You just getting it right tells me that you got it right, but there's only 2 answers. It's either statistical or non-statistical, right? But you have a 50-50 shot. Tell me why. And so it's about that evidence of understanding. And remember, you can score that 1+ on the rubric when you get it right, but there's no justification with it. Okay, Kennedy.
I could.
That's fine. Okay. Alright, so here's number 2. 2A was a little bit tougher, especially when it came to sample and population. We'll talk about that a little bit. But I will say 2B, hopefully no one had trouble with it. Why should we have not had much trouble with 2B? I was saying, we saw it on the bell ringer on Tuesday. That was literally the question we examined when we did the rubric analysis yesterday. So hopefully we're good with 2C. Any questions on 2C before we, or 2B before we talk about 2A? I'm asking right now, does anyone have a question about 2B? That's the one that we should have been comfy on, and then we'll talk about 2A. You didn't have time to do it. Oh, you should have skipped over that one. You missed it, so you'll miss those 2. Kamari. So, like you put that extra detail here?
No, I'm saying like.
So you just said 18 to 21-year-olds? Okay.
Oh, I said.
Gotcha. That's a good question. The 60% That is not a part of the sample. Does anyone remember why the 60% is not the sample? CJ?
Because you get the 60% after.
So remember, we got the 60% after doing the study. We got the 60% from our sample, but it was 60% of the 1,500 students, right? That's who I got data from. That's the thing we gotta remember. One of the key things for samples is, who are we getting our data from? That is our data, but who did we get that data from? Those 1,500 students aged 18 to 21.
So if you say the population, how do you say
So remember, it's not just about right or wrong. That's close. But is it all college students?
No.
It's only the 18 to 21-year-old college students.
So that's
That would have been the population. Does that make sense? Okay. So 18 to 21-year-old college students was my population there. Savannah, we're trying to learn here. Off the watch, or we'll go with your cell phone. Any other questions about 2B? I mean, you can say again. Yeah. Because you got the pen, right? The pen tells me that's not what you did during the understanding check. So I know whatever you write in pen is your corrections, essentially.
Is this
Okay.
gonna be on?
Huh?
You guys do some Google Doc,
What do you mean?
like, you guys like?
These solutions?
Yeah,
No, but I am recording the video right now.
okay.
It'll be on YouTube this afternoon. Micaiah and then Caitlin, what you got?
Can you read the COI on something?
2B, the COI, it says percent of population that take at least one science class. That's what we want to know. Sorry, that is not great handwriting. But yeah, that's a percent symbol. So percent of population that take at least one science class. Hold on, Caitlin had a question, then I'll come to you, Ireland. What you got, Caitlin?
I'm not sure if you already said it, but why was the population of 18 to 21 year olds?
The population is the 18 to 21 year olds. It's just all 18 to 21 year olds. That's the population.
I said that it was nationwide, 1,500 college students.
Okay, I got you. You said that was the population?
It was like a big group of, like, it wasn't just a small group of you were trying to figure out.
Actually, what's a bigger group, 1,500 students or all college students in the entire US? All college students in the US, right?
Miss Kelly, when are we gonna start doing math?
Tristan,
I'm not trying.
I've already answered that question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All college students, right? So again, guys, don't forget, this is a time to learn and to grow. This is not the final assessment. It's okay.
We trying.
Some of us are trying more than others.
Well, at least I got it. I got the beat right there. You should be proud of me.
I've never said that I wasn't.
You got two.
Sorry, when have I ever said I
Miss
wasn't proud of
Kelly,
you?
Miss Kelly. Why are you so sad for me, Miss Kelly?
Because my students say silly things. Ireland. Excuse me? Say it loud. Tutoring? Monday and Wednesday afternoons, Tuesday and Friday mornings. Okay, CJ. Stop. Right now. We're having whole class discussion. That means we don't have small conversations and grumblings and things like that because that prevents people from growing and learning. If we focus on actually trying to grow and learn, and some of us studied a little bit more, we would do better. Now I know some of us studied and still struggle, and that's okay. But again, the facts of the matter is, y'all are just stressing right now about whether you got it right or wrong, instead of focusing on how you can grow and learn. Because if you grow and learn, you're going to be better off moving forward. CJ.
So for 2A, with all public, so like with population, the all public high school students?
That's a great question. So, you may be tempted to say that, and it's very close to being correct, but notice I only looked at 168 high school programs. From where? What was the big group we took that 168 from? Those 3 southern states. So the population are the students in those high schools in those states, right? So that was a small detail. Again, you don't have to get this language perfect, guys. You have to show me evidence of understanding. But the population was the 3 southern states. And I know that was a difficulty for people in first block, but I want you to think about it. Again, what's a bigger group? 168 high schools or all high schools in 3 southern states?
3 states.
There's a lot more than 168 high schools in those 3 southern states, correct? That's what we would want to recognize. Okay? Again, you've got to recognize who are we getting the data from. The study examined 168 high schools. They're getting the data from the 168. That's my sample. Now we're looking at students in those high schools. B, the nationwide study that asked 1,500 students. If we ask 1,500 students, who are we getting our data from? 1,500 students. The sample is who we get our data from. That's the small group that we get our data from. That's a struggling point, I think, for a lot of us, that we're forgetting we need to focus on who do we get our data from. Yes, Kennedy. Specifically public high school students in those 3 southern states. Because here's the thing, could California be different than those 3 southern states? So I can't make a prediction about California. New York could be different than those 3 southern states. All right. Yes, ma'am. I'm not supposed to let y'all use the bathroom in the middle of class, y'all know this. You gotta go before or after class. All right, here's number 3. Then you would have led with that. Then you would have led with that information. Number 3. The school board conducts an experiment to determine whether elementary school students who have 2 recess periods instead of 1 are able to learn more in their classes. Treatments, right? Treatments are our experimental conditions. What did the researchers change?
Recess periods.
How many recess periods they had, right? That's what the researchers changed. So that's what we would want to note here. Nathan, do you have a pen or did you get all these right?
So
Yes,
for
Ireland.
that one, so you have to state like what they actually like changed.
I mean, if we're talking about treatments, we need to recognize it's experimental conditions. It's what the researchers changed. So that's the manipulated independent variable. And so again, we don't need to have exactly that language, but you need to have that idea, right? The treatments are the experimental conditions. It's the manipulated independent variable. That's why it's A. Okay, so you'll get some credit for evidence of understanding, right?
Wait, do we have to write it on the side? I got the answer right.
I mean, for evidence of understanding, you have to justify to some degree.
So we count points off of this.
Okay, pause for a second, because this is a language thing, and I know it sounds goofy, but you've got to understand right here and right now, guys. I don't ever count off points. You show me your evidence of understanding, and on that rubric, I identify what evidence of understanding I see. You've got to change that mindset. The rubric shows evidence of understanding. So the greater evidence of understanding, the higher you score. Kamari.
What do you add to it?
It depends on your evidence of understanding. That's partially valid, right? But it depends on your evidence of understanding where you would score on the rubric. But that is the only manipulated variable. What's the other answer you put? D. But did the researchers change what classes the elementary school students took? Whether they're able to learn more in their classes. But that's also that's the dependent variable, that's the result. It's not what the researchers changed. So remember guys, treatments are what the researchers changed. Okay, here's number 4. If we are asking a statistical question that goes with an experiment, what's the goal of an experiment? To establish what? We gotta recognize that experiments are all about cause and effect.
Right.
So which 2 questions, statistical questions, dealt with cause and effect? B and C.
B and C.
Kennedy.
I wasn't paying attention to some of all that apply.
I didn't even, listen.
I had B, C.
Like, I can argue with all of
Guys,
them.
hey guys, stop, pause. Stop and listen. I'm telling you that those are the correct answers and that those are the reasons why, but again, it depends on your evidence that you show me of how well you understand this, where you score. So instead of saying I put B or I erase B, make notes and ask questions about how to improve your understanding.
Excuse me.
But I'm going to score it later, you're going to score it later to see what evidence do you show me of your understanding. You've got to focus on that. What evidence do you show me of understanding? Kamari.
What you mean experiment?
What?
What you mean by experiment?
The whole point of an experiment is to establish cause and effect, right? So, based on this cause, how does it affect something? So, what effect does running every day have on cardiovascular health? Cause, running, effect, cardiovascular health. Does taking a yoga class before the commute to work affect the heart rate of the drivers? Cause, yoga class before commute, affect heart rate of the drivers. Right? Does that make sense? So anytime there's some evident element of cause and effect, we're using an experiment. Yes, Ireland.
Can we also, if, I'm just thinking about it, can you all like put them in like 2 groups? Like,
What?
like running every day, like you can like put people in a group and say like people are running every day, or for cardiovascular health, and you have people that don't run. Could that also be like?
Well, you can have more than 2 groups though. Not in that case, but I'm saying with an experiment. If I want to know how well a fertilizer affects the growth of a plant, then I could do 0 fertilizer in the dirt, I could do 20% fertilizer in the dirt, 40% of the dirt is fertilizer, 60% is fertilizer. And so notice, I have more than 2 groups. So an experiment can have more than 2 groups, but again, the point here is which question is best answered by an experiment. A question is trying, or an experiment is trying to establish cause and effect. So if the question is trying to establish cause and effect, then I want an experiment. Okay? So if a question is trying to establish cause and effect, then I want an experiment. Okay? Number 5. So which of these is an experiment? We need treatments. We need to establish cause and effect. A was the only one that had treatments trying to establish cause and effect. Now, hold on one second. I do want to point this out because some students are going to be like, well, Mr. Kinney, did I have to write all of that out? And someone asked that in first block. They said, well, I only wrote out information for A. Could you establish that A is an experiment by just writing about A? Yes. But remember, the rubric is about evidence of understanding. If I just write about A versus I write all of this out, which is a higher evidence of understanding? Just talking about A or writing about all 4? All 4. Like that's it. Like that's what you need to recognize. It's not about counting points off or anything like that. It's about what level of evidence of understanding do you have. If you do a good job explaining A on the rubric, you may be looking at a 3 or a 3+, or maybe even a 4. That is what on the rubric would be a 4+. It is complete evidence of understanding. That would leave no shadow of a doubt that you understand what an experiment is if you write about it that way. What are your questions about any of these 3? And again, I'm not answering questions about scores or about grades. I'm answering questions about what concepts did you struggle with so that you can improve your understanding. Skylar.
So, thing is, it was like, I made a note or so, because like, I wasn't really observing the questions for real, so that's why
Okay.
only,
So just learn from it. Again, guys, these are not your final grades. We're getting all bent out of shape about a thing that we can learn from when we need to say, how can I learn from this and grow and get better, so that we understand for the future. Okay, here's number 6. Here's my random digit table. So notice I made the note here, there are 348 words. So how many digits do I need to go by? 3, right? That's something we talked about heavily. Right? However many there are, we need to use that many digits. So we need to go by 3 digits, but we needed numbers 348 or lower. And this is the way I tackled it. Personally, I wrapped it. At the end, I only had 4 words. I needed 6, so I used 7, 9 from the end there and wrapped down to the 6 for my next 3-digit number. It is okay if you just stop at the 144 and start back here. That is a valid way to do it. And so I'll show that, I'll account for that and look for it in our answers later. Yeah, so Brooks and then Caitlin.
I didn't know we could go to 104. I thought it was only 100. I didn't know you could do that.
We talked about that in class before, where if you don't get enough, you wrap down to the next line. So learn from that before we do this kind of thing again. If you run out of numbers before you have selected all that you need, you wrap it down to the next line. Yes, Caitlin?
That was the same thing.
Okay. Yes, sorry.
How you know these possibilities or not?
So how many words were we selecting? Or how many words were on the paper? 348, right? So if you want to get the 272nd word, or have the option to get the 272nd word, how many digits do you need? 2, 7, 2. 3 digits. So it depends on how many options you have. If I were to randomly select students from Hillcrest High School, so hear me on this. If I were to randomly select students from Hillcrest High School, first off, I would have to assign each person a number. And then how many students are at Hillcrest High School, just roughly?
But
I think it's 1,400. If there are 1,400 students at Hillcrest High School, how many digits do I need to go by? 4. Whatever the maximum option is, that's how many digits I need. That's something I emphasized and heavily talked about when I taught y'all how to use this random digit table. Gotta make sure we take solid notes, that we use those notes, complete homework, and that we study them. But there we go. Questions about number 6? Any final thoughts? And again, this is a learning process. Number 7. This is one of those conceptual questions where I really want us to recognize that if you want to determine the average length of all those words, why would you need to use a random digit table or random number generator? If you do not have randomness, your sample will not be what?
representative.
Representative of the population. Instead, it's biased. That's one of the most foundational things, that if we do not randomly sample, then you do not get representative samples. Your samples are biased. You gotta have that randomization in there. And I will point out, because I think someone's got distracted on this, with number 6, did I ever ask you to actually average the word length? Follow the directions. This assessment and this unit was not on you being able to average things, it was on your ability to use a random digit table to randomly select. Don't waste your time, read the directions. Any questions through number 7?
I like it.
Huh? Can you what?
I like it.
Yes. The whole point of y'all having the pens is so that you can take any notes that you need to or want to. We don't have all day for you to write down every single word that I did, but you can take notes more efficiently and quickly. Get your last ideas down. I'm about to move. 3, 2, 1. All right, here's number 8. I apparently need to add these details in, and because I guess I did not emphasize this enough, these are the types of sampling techniques, right? Convenient sampling, random sampling, and subjective sampling. And those were almost the clearest definitions of those 3 things. But what questions do we have? Besides what? Besides what? Oh, it's easy on the researcher. Convenient sample, right? It's easy on the researcher. That's how we know it's convenient. It's really easy to just grab the first 20. Just like with Hide by Juice WRLD, we just grab the first 5 words on the song. Simple random sample. SRS, simple random sample. There's other types of random sampling. All we talked about was simple. Sorry, that's a very common abbreviation in AP statistics. I forgot that we didn't really cover that abbreviation. But simple random sample. I say AP statistics. That's just a common abbreviation in statistics.
Do they call it bias?
Subjective because using judgment, biased because not random. Okay. Make sure your name is on each sheet because you're going to turn them both in, keep them stacked together. Also, please put the pins at the center of the desk so I can come and collect them. Huh? Where did I get them from? Office Depot. I don't remember. It was a pack of them, like this big old pack for $20 maybe? I don't know. The school paid for it. Huh? Alright. Hold on 1 second. After you put your papers together so I can easily come and collect them, same with the pins. We need to get out the to use or not to use algebra that we started on yesterday. So I need all the papers together, names on the paper, all the pins together. I will come and collect them. No, we need both papers. Both papers go together. We should have used that random digit table and the lyrics as part of our evidence. Put them together. Put our names on it. I'll come and collect pins. Okay? Then get out to use or not to use algebra, what we started on yesterday. Yeah. Let me get the class started on the next one.
What if I buy your ticket? I got tickets. I'll buy your ticket. I got tickets.
Tristan, can you get out the to use or not to use algebra book sheet? Thanks, sir.
I'm getting in that Where it gonna be? What's that look like? Remember the one we had got the bottom of the court?
Okay. So, just like yesterday, Tristan, we are now done with statistics, except for we will have one extra assessment so that you can show me higher levels of understanding and learning from your mistakes. We are now looking at mathematics with to use or not to use algebra. And so don't forget, what is mathematics? Skylar.
Study of relationships and patterns.
Study of patterns and relationships. That's what we're looking for, patterns and relationships. And so there's three things that you need to be doing. You need to notice, describe, and generalize. That's what we're working on. And so we got to do some work with it, because we're going to be looking at math through that lens, which is a little bit different than what you're used to. Yes, Mark? So here are objectives. Don't forget, we're trying to create and use multiple mathematical representations. What are the mathematical representations you can create?
I do have a big book of water right here, but I didn't have to use it.
And then, I don't know. Y'all gotta go before and after class though. We got tabular representations, meaning what?
Tables.
Tables, algebraic, which are our expressions,
And I can't like inequality,
equations, and inequalities, right? Expressions, equations, inequalities. What else do we have? Verbal, which are our words. Two more. Pictorial, and then what was the last one? Graphical. Okay? Alright, those are our major mathematical representations we'll use in this class. And then remember, we're in an algebra class. We're trying to focus on and get up to solving algebraic representations of a posed problem. And so we're using this task. And I'll go ahead and tell you, most students in first block ignore the algebraic. A lot of you already know a lot about the algebraic that you need to solve this first problem. At least think about your equations. What most people did is they focus on tabular during class today, but we're trying to solve the problem in at least two ways. Algebraic plus one more. And so we started this yesterday of looking at a bottle and its cork weighing 315 grams. The bottle's weight is larger than that of the cork by 300 grams. And so we've got to remember, in general in mathematics, when we don't know what something is, we're going to use a what? Before you can make a table or a graph, when we don't know what something is, we're going to use, it starts with a V. Variables. Don't we need variables for that graph?
Yes.
We need variables for that table, right? And so the variables are the
B.
B. Well, what about that bottle?
B is represented.
Drink your bottle.
What about that bottle? The
It weighs.
weight of that
Yeah.
bottle, right? We don't know what the weight of the bottle is. C is the,
Cork.
what about that cork?
The weight.
The weight of that cork, right? We want to know those two weights. And we need to pay attention to the two different descriptors. If a bottle and its cork weigh 315 grams, what mathematical operation should we be thinking about? Mathematical operation.
Addition.
Which one is it? When we look at the two things together?
Addition.
See how that's the two things together, right? We should be thinking about addition there.
Yes, sir.
We're looking at B plus C here. We can do something with that. Possibly make an equation for the algebraic side. It could also help us with the table or with the graph. If the bottle's weight is larger than that of the cork by 300 grams, what? Subtracting? What are we going to subtract?
We is going to subtract.
We are.
We are going to subtract 315 by 300.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what this statement says?
No.
No. What does that statement say? We're looking at the difference of what? Two things.
Yeah.
The bottle and the cork weight. So what am I subtracting? Those are algebraic expressions that should help you get started. This could also help you make a table because, and so again, like that'll help you with the algebraic. And if you can create an algebraic, then you can actually use your graphing calculator to create a graph, which can be very useful. And I'll teach you about that. But also, where a lot of us had some success yesterday was starting with the table. What's the first column in the table?
Bottle.
So B, the weight of the bottle. Make sure we're clear with that language. What's the next column?
C.
Which is the weight of the
The cord.
cord. What should the next column be?
They're sewn together.
Don't we want to look at the sum of the bottle and the cord?
Yeah.
And then the last column?
They subtract.
B minus C. I want to look at the difference of those two things. And we looked at, most of us made it a snap judgment and assumed it was going to be what for the bottle and cord?
315.
And 15, right? And when we looked at it, did they add up to 315?
Yeah, but you're not supposed to do it like that, bro.
Well, we do want them to add to 315, but if we look at the difference, what was that? Do we want the bottle to only be 285 grams bigger? Nope. Because of how much time in class, we're going to have to just do this a whole class, talking about this a little bit more, and then I'll let y'all work tomorrow. But once we know that this isn't working, what can I do with that table?
Put it together.
Okay, what do you mean by that though?
Put the numbers together.
But I already put the numbers together, and by put them together, mathematically, we're talking about adding in,
Subtract.
and you say divide? But does the problem say anything about division?
No.
So we don't want to divide here.
You don't.
Multiply.
Does it say anything about multiplying over there?
Well, add it and then subtract it again.
Well, we did add and we subtracted, but guys, the whole point was, do these weights work? So let's use some different weights. Anybody have a prediction about another weight for the bottle that we could try?
10.
No. Two.
Just 10?
No. 295.
Okay, so let's pause and I want to point this out, because I had some students making huge jumps in first block, but pay attention to this. Is that really far from 300?
No.
So do I want to use a number really far away from the 300?
You don't.
No. So 295 maybe, and I'll come back to some other options in a second. So this is 295. That'd have to be 20 to get up to 315, right?
Right.
What's going to go here for the difference?
295 minus 20.
Okay. Right? The bottle is 295, the cork is 20, and y'all all staring at me like we don't have calculators on our desks.
275.
Okay. So does that work?
Probably not.
Probably not.
So you gotta do it again.
Gotta keep going, Kamari.
I know, bro.
Okay, so you said we need to add weight, not subtract weight from the bottle? Now I want y'all to look at this.
I agree with him.
Look at it. You see how this got further away from the 300 grams we wanted? So instead of making this less, I need to make it,
More.
so what's an option more?
305.
330.
315, so let's do 315 and then I'll do 305. So look at 315, what would the cork be?
10.
Okay, so let's pause and actually, I'll point this out. You said 15. Was that because you were looking here at the difference being 300?
Yeah.
So that would work, but then what would the sum be?
330.
It's, yo.
Okay,
What?
so that doesn't work.
What is this?
So notice, hey, we want to pay attention to patterns. We want to use the table to help us organize. Here we did the corks weighing the same amount, right? Yeah? We did the bottle being more though, and that didn't work. We need something that is maybe in between. Tristan?
Put 330 in B, and then in C, you put 15, and then it's gonna be 345, and then do 345 minus, I mean, not 345, 330 minus 15. Yeah.
But do we want the difference to be 315?
I don't know what you want.
It's on the paper, Tristan.
Fine.
Look at the paper, it's on the board. The difference needs to be 300.
So make it 2.
Kennedy? Okay, let's try 305. Remember, we started out, Zari, with 300, and we said it needs to be bigger than 300. So 305, this would be
10.
10. This would be 315 for the sum. But what would the difference be?
10.
Got it.
Wait, hold on.
Pick up a calculator. We are in algebra 2. I care about the algebra, not being able to do calculations. What is it? 295. Thank you. Oh, we got closer, but we're not quite there. So you said 310, right? So if this is 310, this would have to be. Is the sum good?
Excuse me.
Still good? Still good? What's the difference though?
Oh.
I want a difference of 300.
I think I got it. I'm not too sure if I got it.
Okay, 307 is what I heard.
Yeah.
Which would make this 8. That's a sum of 315, but what's the difference?
This is crazy.
2. Hey guys,
299.
did I ever say that it has to be an integer?
You can get it.
It can be a decimal.
Excuse me. I got it. Try 150. Try making both 157.5. I don't know if my look, hear me out. Try making both. Cause that equals 315, right? But shoot, here we go.
So maybe not quite. Guys, pause. Skylar, look right here. 307, 8 gave me 315 and gave me 299. I was so close to that 300.
I don't know why you just spoke up like that.
307.5 would force this to be not 0.5. We need to get to 315. So it needs to be, isn't 307.5 plus 7.5 315?
Yeah.
And what is 307.5 minus 7.5?
300. At least I contributed.
I agree. But guys, so here's what I want you to notice. Pause. Okay, I still got 60 seconds. I will give you time to pack. I want you to pay attention to this. That table, if we paid attention to how things were increasing and decreasing, we could just continue to make slight adjustments, not jumping to 157.5, right?
Right.
Till we got everything to work out. Okay? This table is also going to help us tomorrow create some equations and create some graphs. So you may now pack up. I would, if I were you, take a picture of that before we go, since most of us did not, actually take notes on that. And I would put that on my paper tonight. I feel like there's been some good learning today, but what are all of you? We are capable of more. If you have not done the homework assignment,
That was stupid. That was so stupid.
there's a homework assignment on the board if you need to take a picture. Make sure you take your papers with you. No, that was the homework that most of you did not do.
Kitty.
I'm glad you were thinking though.
Bye, Mr. Kenny.
See ya.